Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Thank you all for being here today. Dr. Johnson, thank you for joining us today. I saw that the American Academy of Neurology sent the committee a letter encouraging us to consider that standard time, not daylight savings time, is the best to align with our body's natural clocks. Many people still sleep through the morning light or after the early sun rises. Does that mean that light is being wasted if they are not using it awake?
So light helps us get up. Most people will wake up naturally after light. Now, some people, my teenagers, could easily sleep until noon, and that makes them actually more likely shift their schedules even later. So when you miss morning light, which is needed to reset your rhythm, or if you get too much light in the evenings, you drift later and have even more trouble getting up in the morning. And so that's why if we actually set it so the sun is rising earlier in the morning, more people will actually naturally, because their circadian rhythms start saying get up on time rather than get up so late, will be able to be ready for the day, be able to have their circadian rhythms help their health, help their metabolism, which is going to be good for heart disease, stroke risk, dementia risk, all these other sort of chronic health problems.
I appreciate that. To all the panelists, what does this mean for New Mexico, for our farmers, school children, and teenagers, the elderly, workers in tourism and recreation? What would permanent daylight standard time mean for these communities? One or the other, I apologize, not or. Mr. Yates?
Senator, thank you for the question. New Mexico is another real leader in early movements to try to lock the clock. State Senator Cliff Pirtle worked on this. I worked with him closely for a long time. The effects on everybody in New Mexico of the clock changing is the same, which is it's very disruptive. It's not disruptive equally for everybody, but for a lot of people it is. A lot of all the things that we've cited, all the different health studies show that. The thing that I've been advocating today about the 2-year implementation period would be especially helpful for New Mexico because you have a tricky little trade region where you abut West Texas, which is in the Mountain Time Zone, and part of Mexico. And so there's a region where interstate commerce is directly affected. And so all of Mexico recently decided to lock the clock, except for the part that is attached to West Texas and New Mexico. And so these issues of commerce are complicated and do take a little while to work out. So that's the one thing I would say is that that sort of thing should be addressed carefully.
Mr. Kern?
I would say that the golf courses in New Mexico, which enjoy mostly afternoon and evening light, all the great hiking that goes on in New Mexico, the rock climbing, the hot air ballooning, all of that would be seriously curbed if daylight saving time was removed. And that would be, I think, a detriment to the New Mexico economy and people's time and ability to get outside and enjoy what you have.
You're suggesting that people hike and golf in the morning?
No, they do all that in the afternoon. And if standard time was made permanent, they would feel forced to do it in the morning, but they have to go to school, they have to go to work, and I don't think they would be able to make that shift.
Appreciate that. Dr. Johnson?
Yeah, I would say, if anything, you have a neighboring state, Arizona, that does very well on standard time and has shown that the golf industry can thrive. If anything, a lot of people say, and one of the reasons Arizona says they stayed on standard time is because it gets too hot later. So a lot of people do like to do exercise later, and that often is actually a better time for our health to get our exercise in. So if we can get people up so that they can be more active in the morning and get this exercise and enjoy all the wonderful things like hiking, which I know when I've gone to places like New Mexico, I do in the morning. I think that we can still have all these activities on either time, but I think standard time is the healthier choice.
Dr. Harkin?
So our work was looking at fatality data nationally rather than by individual states, in part due to sample size. But if the patterns hold in New Mexico, just like they have in our research across the country, then we're going to see an offset between the number of motor vehicle occupant deaths that have risen slightly during the time change periods, and pedestrian and bicyclist deaths that have decreased slightly during that same time period. And so the net effect is one of really no change when we look at road safety data alone. And so if you're trying to make this decision on the basis of just road safety, I don't think the results of our study are going to point you in one direction or the other.
As a follow-up to that, Dr. Harkey, Dr. Johnson pointed to a study from a professor at Eastern New Mexico University, Jeff Gentry, who showed 20% higher car crashes in locations where sunrises and sunsets are later. Now, I understand your point that darkness is a key measure of accidents, but this data shows me that sleep effects are powerful indicators as well. How do you view the risk of sleep deprivation on accidents versus risks from darkness?
So our study did not look specifically at that particular issue. I know other studies have. Methodologies differ. Most of the studies that have tried to look strictly at that small amount of time change before and after in the crashes concur that the real issue here is the amount of ambient light and the time of day when it occurs, that darkness is the real key, and you just need to make sure that you're providing good safety interventions to address issues of darkness. So whether that is improving technologies in the vehicle, such as headlights, automatic emergency braking, or whether it's you're putting in infrastructure measures that add more lighting, add more space for pedestrians and bicyclists to keep them separated from motorists, whatever you can do to reduce those conflicts in the darkness and improve awareness of other road users in the darkness will be beneficial, regardless of the time change.
It sounds like you support my legislation to require technology be installed in vehicles to prevent impaired crashes. So I'll take that as well. We'll share that with my colleagues. Mr. Chairman, I have one more question for Mr. Yates on standard time versus daylight savings. I'll just submit it into the record. And just to note to the panelists, the reason I'm asking so much about sleep is, as my colleagues know, I suffered a stroke 3 years ago. I've learned a lot about the importance of sleep. I definitely lived my life burning the candle at both ends, and now I do my due diligence to embrace sleep hygiene and all the rest. And so that's bearing a lot into this conversation that I'm having with my constituents and others, Mr. Chairman. So I very much appreciate this hearing, though. Thank you all for being here.